Master of Science in Disaster Management and Resilience. Jessica van Schalkwyk.
My name is Jess van Schalkwyk. I am from South Africa and I studied the MSc in Disaster Management and Resilience at Coventry. The Coventry MSc in Disaster Management and Resilience is all about learning the basics of disaster management, understanding what research is actually about, and then taking that a step further and challenging yourself in terms of normal, straight down the line disaster management of that disaster continuum, mitigation, preparedness, response, recovery, and adding in the flavor of resilience. And I think what drew me to it is the elevator pitch of we're taking this a step further. It's not just you're going to learn about disasters and how to respond in a basic way. What this course is about is you're going to learn about disasters and how to respond in a way that makes sure the same outcomes don't happen again in future. I liked Aula because of the flexibility it gave me in terms of being able to study as and when I needed to. When I first started with Coventry, I was still doing a lot of international deployments, and so there were many modules studied in the air, which was great because I could be anywhere and just, hop on my laptop and carry on with what I needed to do. But I think the one thing that would be great is if there was more sense of community on there. That would be a lovely add-on, but I think for what I needed it for, it was amazing because I could just do a couple of lessons, carry on with my work in the evening, I could do a few more. And so, yeah, that was really, really helpful for someone who needed their studies to fit into their daily schedule. Not well. No. I've been asked this question before, and I think I'll probably look back on this in 5 or 10 years and have a different answer and be like, I could have balanced things way better. But for me, I'm really passionate about this industry, and I love my job and I love my studies. And so there were days and weeks where I know I wasn't balancing things well, but I don't think it ever felt like that in the moment because I'm so interested in it. And I try and say to people, if they're like, oh, do you think I should maybe study, disaster management or disaster management resilience? I will always say to them, if it's something that you can be super passionate about. I know for a fact that I'm one of few people who loves their job. And so that is, I think, what helped with, maybe it wasn't helping balance it, but it made it feel like I could because it was enjoyable and it's stuff that I wanted to know more. So that was the balance. First of all, I'm not great at a desk job. So now I spend a lot more time on my computer than I did before. But I think what originally drew me to it is most people, they want to help people. And that's the crux of what disaster management is about. But I'm incredibly ADHD. And so my day-to-day can't put pencils in a row. But in a crisis, things just slot into place. And so my brain works in that moment and being able to take these pieces that are, they're all scattered and where other people, can't see a way through, it's kind of taking chaos and turning it into order. And I love that about disaster management. But I think beyond that, the heart of it is I love the idea of the upskilling and the capacitating of communities to have a bigger role in managing their own disasters. And I've always said, and I've had past employers who say, you can't say that, is we shouldn't need disaster managers. I'm trying to work myself out of a job. And I think that's what I love about it is I don't think we'll get there anytime soon, but the idea of being able to support communities and give them the resources that they are the ones who can then run with this and be able to build resilient communities, that is what I love. I just think with where the world is going and climate change and all of these things that are happening. It's becoming so important that people don't sit back and wait for someone else to do something. And disaster management has always been this separate siloed industry, whereas now we can bring it more into the community space. And that's what I love, is just community getting involved. I would have loved to have been there during the East Indian tsunami. And the reason for that is because the first organization that I worked for was born out of that. So it was two organizations that eventually merged, but one of the co-founders, so the organization is All Hands and Hearts, and one of the co-founders, Petra Nemkova, she was actually there when the tsunami happened. She got swept up into a palm tree and hung in that palm tree for 8 hours until someone came and rescued her. And the way that she talks about communities and disasters and how to support people, it's a perspective that I don't think anyone would have unless you've lived that. And I also just find what happened during that response and the recovery so fascinating. There's a lot of stuff that went horribly wrong, but there's also so many beautiful moments in that of just community coming together. And I think it would have been incredible to learn from those moments. And I definitely wouldn't have wanted to have lived it. So, yeah. Definitely. I think what made it really helpful when I was trying to fit it into a packed work schedule was that the lectures were recorded. So I could go back and watch those. Obviously, it's wonderful when you can attend the live sessions, but having those resources there was really useful. And again, I think that's where Aula came into play, was you had the video, but you also then had the content. So, I mean, it's literally click a button and you're just following through on your course. What I will say is if you can't attend a lecture, you do need to do a bit more reading. And I think at a master's level, you always have to read a lot. But just to make sure that you're covering all the bases is you've got to have that self-drive to go and study more. But in terms of the resources being recorded and everything being in one place, that was so simple and streamlined. And then you've always got the support if you need it. So I never felt like I couldn't get hold of a lecturer, or if there's something that was unclear, it's super easy to get hold of people, contact them. You know, I missed a lecture, I heard this, what did you actually mean by this? And you get the answers you need. So I never felt like I was at a disadvantage not being able to attend all the live lectures. And I think where the mobile came in handy was during my working paper modules, because when I was out kind of doing my research, to have access to Aula there, that was great, because I could go back and I could just check, you know, have I got everything that I wanted to in terms of the brief for this working paper. So that it's so accessible. Oh gosh, a lot of work. So I'm the managing director of a company called Disaster Nomad, which I had started in 2019 as somewhat of a side hustle consultancy, and I now do that full time. And so I think what's next for me is really expanding that business. I touched on it, and the community piece is something that I am really passionate about, but the way that we are trying to make that happen is through corporates and government agencies and those sorts of actors being more a part of the disaster management world and having them reflect on what do their operations mean to the communities around them. So, for example, the tourism industry, I didn't never think I'd work with tour operators, but every single lodge is dependent on staff that come from their communities to run and to operate. And when disasters happen, you know, everything shuts down. And so I think what's next for me is taking what I've learned here at Coventry, and the pieces that have really challenged me and made me stop and think, okay, where was I going wrong? And bring those into the business and growing that as much as we can. I don't know if free is the right word. I really loved studying, and I think I will look to continue things in future. But I feel excited. Let me put it that way. I'm excited to be done. I'm excited that this chapter is behind me. And yeah, I'm not going to miss the late night studying. It's quite nice to watch a bit of Netflix on the side now. But yeah, it's not so much a weight as it feels like something that's been achieved, and I'm proud to have that behind me. Yes, very much so. It's been a long journey.